I guess when we think back, one of the primary reasons Argo Investments established Argo Infrastructure a little over a decade ago was to provide Australian investors with an opportunity to access listed infrastructure, but on the global stage. In many respects, Australia really, I guess, was at the cutting edge. We pioneered the asset class. Governments back then, were fairly insightful. They did recycle assets and they privatised, some of the long-standing but quite iconic government assets. Telstra, Sydney Airport, APA Group, Alinta Gas, the road networks on the East Coast. And so as a result, listed infrastructure companies were well liked, well understood, and for a period gave great returns to shareholders. And they were liked by investors for their reliable income, and that translated into reliable dividends. And these are essential services, so they're essential to the functioning of the economy and in any modern society. However, even back then and prior to that, opportunities to invest in these companies was steadily diminishing, as many were taken over or sold to private buyers who saw, value well above what the stock market was prepared to pay for them. Now, and this trend has continued today, and really there's only a handful of infrastructure companies left in the country. So I guess the case for investing in the asset class on a global scale is probably more pertinent than ever before. It's a vast asset class that spans, emerging and developed countries. It covers many types of infrastructure. It's a very broad spectrum of investment sort of assets outside of Australia. Toll roads, tunnels, marine ports, data centres, transmission and the like. The portfolio does have probably half in the US, but it's spread across 18 countries, even with small holdings, India and Brazil. So the benefits of a global manager. And given it is a very large and very sophisticated, diverse asset class, when we sought to partner with a portfolio manager to sort of offer access to it, we looked for a specialist manager who had a truly global presence in the asset class. And Cohen & Steers really was a standout, not only for how they managed the money, but just the structure of the business. They are also a listed company. They are headquartered in New York and they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And they're one of the leaders in real assets, they would call themselves. So infrastructure, real estate, commodities, real assets. The firm has professionals scattered around the world in a number of offices. And we think that's important because infrastructure are local assets, local regulations, local languages, and having a local perspective on what's happening politically and with a regulatory overlay is essential, we think, to generating long-term value in that space. And we think, Cohen & Steers have delivered on that. Since inception, the manager's done a pretty good job, and we think the portfolio's delivered on or how we thought it should behave through, now we've got, I guess, 10 years of history. So Cohen & Steers have returned over 9% per annum pre-fees, but I guess that makes it equivalent to the benchmark, compared with, I guess, what you would have got as an Australian investor in the 200 accumulation index of 8.9, but with significantly less volatility. And this has been particularly valuable, and as it appears that recently the markets are just going up, but they do fall, and you really do see the defensive characteristics. So during COVID, and even more recently with President Trump began with his very punitive tariffs around Liberation Day, there's a very, very good defensive anchor to these infrastructure assets. And so they do fit nicely into the portfolio. As the chairman mentioned, we have a video from Tyler Rosenlicht from Cohen & Steers. For those of you that did attend the roadshow in May, Tyler was out here as part of that roadshow, which was great, talking about the asset class, the outlook, and the firm Cohen & Steers. And we have a video which we'll cut to shortly. And I guess just before we cut to the video, though, I'd like to thank the team at Argo. We are the manager of Argo Infrastructure. Also like to thank the chairman, and new chairman in particular, who stepped in, and the non-executive directors. And I look forward to working with them through this next period for you, the shareholders. And I'd like to wish you all well for the rest of the year. It's coming around pretty quickly. We thank you for your continued support. Some of you may well have been investors since IPO, and hopefully you can come along to the Investor Roadshow next year. So thank you for coming. Thank you for the support. you.